Now, for 65 years, the Ford Foundation has seen itself as a steadfast partner to West Africa, investing in people, ideas, and institutions that shape the region's future. From education to governance, health to human rights, the Foundation's work has left a mark on the lives of millions. Here in Nigeria, the Foundation has supported initiatives that improve access to quality education, particularly for marginalized communities. From scholarships to teacher training, the Foundation's investments have helped millions acquire the skills they need to succeed. The Foundation has also worked with governments, civil society, and communities to promote transparency, accountability, and justice. So, as the Ford Foundation marks 65 years in West Africa and celebrates the progress made and the partnerships forged, what are the challenges that remain? Well, for all of this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Ford Foundation's Vice President of International Programs, Martin Abregu, and the Foundation's Regional Director in West Africa, Dr. ChiChi Aniagolu-Okoye. Thank you very much indeed to both of you for coming in, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure.
Just remind us, I mean, I know you haven't been around here for 65 years, certainly not in these parts, but remind us of what the Foundation set out to achieve when it set up shop in Nigeria and West Africa 65 years ago.
So the foundation, had in the 1950s, the foundation decided that, even if we are an American foundation, we have a global mandate. And our global mandate was to really ensure dignity for all around the world. So it was at that moment that the foundation began to open offices around the world. And in the context of Nigerian independence, we thought it was the right moment to come here to establish our office very early on in that process. And as you describe rightfully, the goal back then was to really partner with the country here, to focus on your priorities and be engage with you in any productive way that we think that, to ensure that the country could move to the next phase in the most successful way. So that's the work that we've been doing for the last 65 years in different ways, because of course it's not the same what we are doing today than what we were doing 65 years ago. But ultimately, the work continues to be the same. Dignity for all here in West Africa and around the world.
Right. Well, let me pick up from what you just said there, Dr. Okoye. How has the Ford Foundation's model for aid development in West Africa evolved in those 65 years?
Thank you very much. I think the great thing about the Foundation's work is that it has really mirrored the history of the period. So in 1960, when Nigeria got its independence, the challenge at the time was a trained human resource to be able to help manage the new country that was emerging. So the focus was around training, civil servants, teachers, those kinds of people.
Take over the bureaucracy
of course,
that was
exactly.
being set up.
Yes, and so we supported universities, University of Nigeria, University of Ibadan, to some extent University of Lagos, a little later than that. So the idea was really on human, development, scholarships for, for students, not just in Nigeria, but across West Africa, because it was a West Africa program. People like Kofi Annan, for instance, benefited from our scholarship.
Kofi Annan was the former UN Secretary General.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was really building that workforce. As time went on, as we, of course, as you know, shortly after independence, we had the coup and then the civil war in Nigeria. And after that, the plan was, how do you rebuild this country? So again, the focus was then on agriculture, on helping repair infrastructure. So the IITA, the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, for example, was built with the support of the Ford Foundation. And so the whole idea of the Green Revolution in the 1970s was something that we focused on. And then as that evolved, and of course we went through military rule for a long time, and while it was important to support the infrastructure, we also realized, like Martin said, that really what we're set up for is for the dignity of the human person. And that was becoming more and more difficult under a military rule. So our support went into human rights and helping the country return to democracy. So in the 90s, a lot of the work was around working with civil society organizations and like-minded partners to get the country back into the, from military rule to democracy. And then in the 2000s, when we got the democracy, we realized, okay, the fight is no longer about democracy, but it doesn't mean that people's lives have dramatically transformed. And so the issue was then about inequality, the widening inequality between the the haves and the have-nots. And so our focus has been on shrinking inequality and ensuring that marginalized people have a voice and have a decent life. And that's been the work that we have been doing, up until now, and ensuring that we're building, a strong civil society that can be the voice for marginalized and voiceless people.
Very interesting indeed. And Mr. Abregu, is there a sense that countries in West Africa in particular and the global South in general have a more level playing field today than they did all those years ago? Or are they as aid dependent now as they were then?
No, we definitely see that there has been a lot of progress, though still there's a lot of work to do. But the foundation has been always strongly committed to aid. First of all, I think it's extremely important to stress, we come to countries to stay for the long haul. So our commitment here with the people of Nigeria has been, the same for the last 65 years. So even as this is the challenges continue to evolve, we think it's important for us to stay. So we do think that today, when we are thinking about the role that countries like Nigeria or other global South countries play at the global level is very different than they used to. We still think that one of our main goals today is continue to engaging around global governance issues to ensure that more and the participation of the countries in the global South is more and more meaningful. So that is part of our work, here in Nigeria, in India, in South Africa, in Brazil, in Mexico, because we do think that unless we make globalization work for everyone, it's not going to work for anyone.
And you're able to measure that, what the Ford Foundation is actually doing, the progress and...
I think that's a critical question for us. We have big goals, but at the same time, we spend our money around specific projects that we always track and monitor to ensure that we are achieving progress. And of course, sometimes it works better, sometimes it doesn't work as we expected. And it's fine for us if things do not work as expected, but we always want to learn and to continue adjusting to ensure that the next grant that we make, we minimize the possibility of failure. Because for us, ultimately, our responsibility is to make the best use of those dollars to actually have a direct impact in people's life. So that's why measuring is so important to us.
Absolutely. And there have been allegations made that aid is delivered to the global South in a very disempowering way. I'm sure you've heard that before. So the NGOs from the North come into communities without a sense of involvement or inclusivity or equitable partnerships. How has the Ford Foundation dealt with that situation?
I think the beauty of the Ford Foundation is that it's exactly the opposite of that. The Ford Foundation does not see itself as a donor. It sees itself as a partner.
Right.
And so many times we are not prescriptive. We're not prescribing to organizations or to communities what it is that they want. We don't even do what others call for proposals, which just means that, we're not putting our calls. We identify people whose ideas are linked or are connected to our strategy or to our goals, and then we partner with them. And they're actually the ones who come to us and say, oh, we want to do this, will you be willing to support us? And we have had situations where civil society organizations have said, no, we don't want to do it this way because it's not going to work. And we agree. We give very flexible funding. One of the things that civil society organizations complain about is how restricted the funding that they get is. And we listen to that and we say, if people are going to make change in a dynamic world, they need dynamic money. You know, you can't have a static finances for a dynamic and changing world. So we make sure that the funding we provide is extremely flexible, that we take the back seat and our partners take the front seat, and we ensure that whatever it is that they are doing, that they know that it is okay to take risks and to fail, you know, because that's the way the world is.
Is it about having altruistic motives in helping the people of West Africa through a sort of development aid model? Or is it about creating a level playing field so that people can help themselves? Because that seems to be at the heart of the problem, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We think that we think that the people who are the closest to the problems are the ones who know how to solve those problems. So as ChiChi was saying, we want to partner with those people and provide the resources that they need to do what they know that they have to do. We don't have the answers. We may have the resources, but not the answers. The answers are out there, and our job is to find the people with the answers and support them. And you know what I think is extremely important is to stress that all our resources, or the vast majority of our resources to work in this region, go to organizations in this region. Okay,
Right.
We are not giving resources to organizations in the global north or anything like that. Our support goes always to people on the ground, because we think that's the way that you are going to identify the solutions that you need for the problems that we face today, because we also need to understand that problems continue to change, and that's why we want to give our partners the flexibility that they need to adapt to a new context.
That's an important point. So the development initiatives are being led by people on the ground, and you're still doing that 65 years later. But how do you measure, I know you might have touched on this earlier, but how do you measure the effectiveness of your programs, and what metrics do you use to assess impact?
So, because what we support is social justice, it's not a unilinear sort of development.
Right.
You know, things happen, you make progress, and then there is a change of government, and then, you know, there's a challenge to that progress, and we recognize that. So many times the way we measure our progress is to really see or to compare what's happening in the world, and to allow our partners develop their own metrics of measurement. Because, you know, you can come into a place and say, oh, you know, what I want to see is that, you know, say for instance, the policy has been changed. And if you don't see that policy change, then you say nothing has happened. But there has been years of advocacy, years of engagement, you know, with communities and things to be able to make that happen. So we are willing and able to measure the process and not just the end result. And so there's a lot of metrics that I don't think that people are going to be interested in, you know, in that here. But the point I want to make is that our measurement is based on what our partners consider to be important to the communities, and then we design that monitoring and evaluation mechanism to make sure that they are tracking the right things.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the point you're making, but let me just put it another way for the sake of clarity. I mean, can you provide specific examples of how your funding has led to tangible long-term changes in Nigeria, for example? I mean, I'll just give you one example. I mean, there is the Electoral Commission, INEC. I mean, you fund INEC, some of the things they do, but I mean, every single time the moan factor against INEC gets bigger and worse. So I wonder how you sort of measure progress there.
So what we do, I mean, to use your example of
Yeah.
INEC, for example, is that we fund specific things. So for the last election, what we did was to fund the logistics. Because we realized that the logistics was a challenge. You know, electoral materials were coming in very late in certain places, sometimes not showing up at all. And so we focused on that. And there was a significant improvement in the logistics, in the timing that people got the electoral materials and the rest of it. And that's what we did. We didn't do other things.
Right.
So
I think I understand the point you're making. Yeah, that's a very interesting point.
Yeah, no, I think that what is important to understand is, like, you know, when we make a grant is we either make a grant around a very specific project.
Yeah.
And when it's a very specific project, we have very clear indicators of success. What are you trying to achieve? And in those cases, we are actually looking into that. So if, for example, we are trying to, you know, as ChiChi was saying before, like if it's a project related to the green revolution, etc.
Right.
We are tracking like what is happening with agriculture in that specific area, and you know there are very tangible ways to fund that. There are other pieces of work that are more at a higher level, like if you say like, okay, I am, you know, creating a new space for, you know, I'm creating a new field around technology, let's say, right? Like, okay, in that sense, it's not that you're only going to measure a specific outcomes, because what you are trying to do there is ensure that you create a new cadre of people who have the capacity to eventually become a resource for the country. So when we are talking about creating technical capacities, that's what we do. It's like, okay, have we been able to develop this group of people? And of course, what these people are going to be achieved, that's the kind of things that we are not going to be measuring, because they are, you know, they are at a different level.
Right. So how do you ensure that your programs are sustainable and don't create dependency on external funding?
Well, you know, that's a very difficult question, to be honest, because we always seek to ensure that, you know, organizations can thrive once our funding is gone. But that's not always the reality, particularly today, in a context of very scarce international cooperation with, you know, with many governments dialing down their resources and so forth. It is a reality that many organizations continue to struggle to be sustainable. So we have developed a set of organizations that are actually, you know, supporting these skills or these different needs that the organizations have, because we think that it's not enough with supporting organizations with a specific programs. We also need to support the infrastructure. So that's why, you know, one of the major recent initiatives that we have is this initiative called Weaving Resilience, that it's an 80 million initiative around Weaving Resilience.
Weaving
Resilience.
Weaving resilience.
Yeah.
Right, okay, right.
Weaving Resilience.
Right.
It's an 80 million initiative around the world. And this initiative is actually about creating institutions that are supposed to help our partners to be sustainable.
Right.
Because we agree that that's an absolute need, but at the same time, it's a challenge, because, you know, organizations need these resources and they need to figure out how to adapt to a challenging context. So that's what this new global initiative is aiming to do.
Very interesting. And of course, you're marking 65 years of Ford Foundation in West Africa with a number of activities. What's going to be happening? Is that tomorrow or something?
Yes, it is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've already started.
Right.
The last 2 days, yesterday and today, we had our all grantees meeting. So we brought our grantees from all over West Africa to Abuja to take stock, to look at what it is that we have done, the achievements that we had, but also to look into the future and to ask the question, what should we be doing differently? How do we make sure that we're serving the communities, you know, that we are supporting more effectively? So it was a fantastic 2 days, you know, and the partners really came away, you know, feeling that, you know, they have learned a lot, especially. You know, when you bring partners together, there's a lot that some people have addressed, some challenges that others are facing, so they're able to come together and help each other. So that has gone very well. Tomorrow is a celebration itself. Right.
Tomorrow's the party blowout.
Indeed. And we've done a documentary that, you know, that shows the 65 years. So that's really going to be the center of it. So people are going to see what it is that we've been able to achieve. We also have some speakers. We have the former vice president who's going to be coming to speak. We also have, you know, some of our past regional directors and program officers who are going to be talking about what it's like to work with the Ford Foundation. And of course, we're going to have fun and entertainment.
Very good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It's not easy to be 65, as we said. So congratulations to you, and thank you very much indeed for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us. Martin Abregu is the Ford Foundation's Vice President of International Programs, and Dr. ChiChi Aniagolu-Okoye is the Ford Foundation's Regional Director in West Africa. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having us.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.